Hello, welcome back to my channel. It has been a while, but that is because I was busy doing a 12-week year. And I wanted to share with you as we get closer to 2025 how you can make 2025 your year by using the framework of the 12-week year, but adapting it to meet your own needs. If you haven't heard of the 12-week year, it is a book that teaches you how to really plan your quarters starting whenever you want to in a way that you are ensuring that the work you do is the right work. You do the work in advance to plan what matters to you so that when you go through your weeks, it's already decided, you know that what you do is contributing to your long term goals. And as their slogan says, you can do more in 12 weeks than most people do in a year. But what I've found and what I've talked about before, I'll go ahead and link the video here where I talk about it, is that the 12-week year was not designed for me. It wasn't designed for a creative, it wasn't designed for somebody with ADHD, and quite honestly, it wasn't designed for a woman who's a mother. It was designed for people who have somebody to delegate to, which right now is not my situation. I am the person to which things get delegated. So I've made some adjustments based on mostly my neurodivergence. Going through this book got to a point where it was like, just divide this by 12 and then you have your steps. And I'm like, okay, but that doesn't work for me. I don't get consistent energy in any given week. I don't get consistent motivation. I don't get a consistent schedule because I've got kids to worry about. So I cannot plan the way that they told me to, but I love the idea of planning. So this has been adapted to fit how my brain works and hopefully how your brain works too if the 12-week year wasn't clicking for you in its normal way. I disappeared to do the 12-week year. My two goals were to finish a draft of my musical and ideally get a workshop done for it, then to upload a Notion template and ideally have a certain number of sales. I did not hit leg goals. I want to be clear about that in advance. But the lead measurements I wanted to talk about because in some ways they have wildly exceeded expectations, and some leg measurements I wasn't planning on actually did really well. For my musical, I created the music, the melodies, chord progressions for more than 10 songs. I am a lyricist first. Doing more than lyrics is something that I often procrastinate on. I'll write the lyrics as I'm writing the story and then come back months later and before I create the melodies. But use the 12-week year helped me actually prioritize the parts of songwriting that are harder for me. I finished writing a draft of the whole musical. I had been putting off the second act. I hadn't even started actually writing the second act when the 12-week year started, and I finished it. It took me 9 months to write act one and 2 months to write act two. Like, that is the difference with the 12-week year. I feel like I was able to really concentrate my efforts in adapting my own novel. The second act is way different from the book. The first act wasn't, but I wrote the second act faster. I'm in the middle of scheduling a table read for feedback with my songwriting group. I am in talks with a potential music collaborator. I've been reaching out to people. I've been doing the scary things. While I didn't reach my sales goals, I did finish the Notion template that was most interesting to me, that I really wanted to get done. My deluxe novel writing companion. It's several hundred pages. It's many databases. I have had some sales and a few that I've given away for free, but I've also had finally some sales on it. I went through a free Etsy course that was like an email course to update my designs, improve my views, because that is where my Notion template currently lives, is on Etsy. Actually did the homework. That's how, once I did the homework is when I got the sales, which was really interesting to me. I also included my YouTube channel and my Medium in my goals here because they are both goals that I have for passive income. I uploaded 12 YouTube videos, published 9 Medium articles, and I also have gotten more than 1,000 followers on Medium, and I had 1,200 to start with. Now I'm at 2,300. Like, I've gained more than 1,000 followers just since I started this, and I'm not really sure what happened, but something clicked apparently, and I can't really take credit for it, but I know that I put in the work, and eventually the results came. But I've been writing on Medium for more than 3 years now. So anyway, how do you do this yourself? First, we're going to talk about who are you? Then your long-term vision, which we are going to break down into a medium-term vision. We are going to do a little bit of that funneling. But then from there, we're going to work from the bottom back up. We're going to start with a time audit of what you're currently spending your time doing, understanding your free time and whether or not it's limited in a certain way. Only then will we gather our goals and kind of meet the two in the middle. So to start, who are you? This seems like a weird question to ask, I know, but I think it's important when we're making our plans to make sure that we're becoming the kinds of people we want to be. If we're going to be intentional about our choices, we may as well do them in a way that matters to us. So start by thinking about all the things you want to have, do, and be in your life. What is most important to you physically, your physical health, your spiritual health, mental health, relationally, professionally, personally, all of these different things. Think about what matters to you. Do you want time freedom? Do you want a certain amount of income? Who are you? What is important to you? We want to make sure that our goals align with who we are, or we're not going to be motivated to complete them, or we're going to feel really unfulfilled when we do. If we achieve a goal that somebody else set for us, it feels hollow. Some tips when you're thinking about this, I've learned recently there's an importance with starting with who you want to be and letting what you do flow from who you are rather than starting with like a scarcity mindset. A lot of people start with, okay, I don't have enough, so I need to do this to make enough, and then you just become a person accidentally. Starting from who you are and choosing your actions based on who you are and letting have and what comes to you flow from who you are is scary. But even though my leg measures are not fully there yet, I have found fulfillment and progress in this. Not to say that I don't have my moments of breaking down. There has been a lot of more fulfillment I found in starting with who I am, what matters to me, how much time freedom I want, than when I operated from a space of, well, I need to have this much income. So I guess I'm going to do this work because it's going to provide me the income. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later too. But first, let's talk about our long-term vision. So you can take who you were and read it through and figure out what really, really matters to you. What do you connect with emotionally? And then construct a vision for your life 5, 10, or 15 years into the future. In my 20s, 5 years seemed like a lot because I was looking at a lot of life changes. I was looking at getting married, having kids, having a house, all of those things would happen in a 5-year time period. So 5 years felt like a long time. Now that I'm a little bit older, I feel like 10 or 15 years is a better goal for myself for making a long-term vision. My kids already exist. I'm not going to be having any more. I'm more firmly established in my career. And even 10 or 15 years from now, I'm not planning on being retired. Kind of sweet spot in between where my life is more stable, but I still have a lot of life ahead of me. So I would tailor how far you want to go based on where you are in your life, but be bold. Be courageous, create a life vision that inspires you, that gives you purpose. Some tips on how to do this. I find it's really useful to ground the future in certainty. Make that timeline feel real. Invoke things that will be true no matter what. Will you hit a milestone birthday in 10 years? Write that down. How old will your kids be? Use these certainties to ground the vision. So like if I'm looking, say, 15 years in the future from when I did this work in the beginning of September, I was 35 when I did this work. And so 50 was a good milestone to look at. Like the 15 years is a long time, but it's also really not that far away. 20 doesn't feel like that long ago, you know? So be brave, but also be yourself. You want to think about what's possible, but you also want the vision you create to be yours. Personally, I'm not a car person. I'm never going to be a car person. I want to be able to travel. That's what I care about. So my vision includes a paid off car and a lot of airplanes. I've been following Ramit Sethi, who talks about what it's like to have your own rich life and to create a vision of wealth for yourself, but your rich life is yours. There are some things that I love to do that people hate, like, creating templates and spreadsheets, even just writing songs and playing music. That's my rich life. It's probably not yours. Although if you're here for music, let me know. I do have ideas for songwriting advice. Anyway, we're going to take the long-term vision and we're going to turn it into a medium-term vision. Based on where you want to be 5, 10, 15 years from now, what do you want to create over the next 3 years? I got specific by thinking about how old am I going to be in 3 years? How old will my kids be? Say you have less than 3 years left on a car payment. This car will be paid off. This will be happening. What does your life look like 3 years from today? Grounded it in certainty and then be bold about the possibilities within that, while aligning it with your vision of what a rich life is, what you want your long-term goals to be. Okay, once you've decided what your 3-year goals are, we need to do a time audit. This is where I am deviating from the 12-week year. So what the 12-week year book encourages originally is to take your 3-year goals and divide them by 12 because you get 12-week years in 3 years. My brain falls apart right then. It's breaking everything down into 12 parts just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I tend to work better in sprints, like something that a computer software person would do, where I focus all of my time on one project before moving on to the next one. And I'm just, like I said, so uneven in my energy levels that, and also just the way my brain works doesn't break things down easily into those 12 pieces. So I now work from the bottom up. I complete a time audit. Look at your current schedule. What are you already committed to? What is your day job, your freelance projects? How much time do you spend driving, volunteering, taking classes or taking your kids to classes, cleaning, shopping, cooking, anything that you do at fairly the same time at least once a week, I would write down. Once you have an idea of your commitments, you might be surprised at either how much or how little free time you have. No matter whether it's a lot or not very much at all, let's understand it. So we're going to audit our free time. Add up the hours that remain. Think about how you usually spend them. Write them down, and if you can, quantify these. How much time per week do you spend on exercise? Watching TV? Watching YouTube videos like this one? Gaming? If you are feeling daring, look at your phone screen's time usage report. It's sometimes a little bit scary what that ends up showing us. But also, when you're doing this, the goal isn't to ignore rest. You need to figure out how much time you can realistically commit to your 12-week year main goal or goals. And both the 12-week year book and right now, me as somebody with ADHD going through this, we recommend paying special attention to your rest. The goal of a 12-week year isn't to hustle. It's to work more efficiently so you can do more in less time. That said, what I found effective for me when it comes to thinking about my rest is to quantify, to literally write down how different types of rest make me feel. Scrolling my phone endlessly is a really easy way to spend my downtime. I'm not saying I don't do this, but I'm not usually restored by it. I don't come back to work ready to do my job if I spend my evening scrolling my phone. I've learned, and just because I've learned it doesn't mean I do it, but I have learned that for me, the most effective rest is a combination of light exercise, going on a walk, stretching, yoga, light brain work, solitaire, but only like for a limited time, not hours and hours of it, playing piano, doing a puzzle, coloring, exploring something new, going on an adventure in the city, whether it's my own city or a new one, reading, a TV show or a YouTube video that I choose intentionally because it's something that I care about, want to learn, or am entertained by, and time with my loved ones. Restorative rest for me does not include totally zoning out and disassociating. For some people, it does. The goal here is to know yourself. What actually makes you feel ready to work the next day? Then make time for those as well as for your goals. Then I feel like this is when you can finally gather your goals. You know who you want to be in the long term. You've got medium goals that are more measurable than the fantasy life that you have planned for the long term. And you also know where you are in the weeds right now. Now we can look at our goals for the next 12 weeks. Are they achievable on a lead measure basis? So a lead measure is something that you can control. I can control uploading a video to YouTube every week. I cannot control when I get 1,000 subscribers. That is a leg measure. But can you achieve your goals in the time you have available? Do you have to reprioritize? I think it's important to remember that how you spend your minutes is how you spend your life. If you keep spending your time like this, if you keep prioritizing the way that you do, you're never going to reach your long-term goals. That's important. That's what I figured out when I was doing this. I realized that all of my long-term goals were about passive income and scalability, but my prioritization was always one-on-one projects. I was never going to reach my goal because whenever I had one-on-one work, all of my work towards scaling got pushed to the side. So one of the things I've been focusing on the last 12 weeks is realizing that if I want to focus on scaling, I have to focus on it. It has to be a priority, even over one-on-one work. That will get done no matter what. It's like the little sand that fills in between the rocks, right? So first, we're going to list our goals. What do you want to accomplish? Look at what you want to do in 3 years and 10 years and figure out what you want to do in the next 12 weeks. I find it's best to at least write down both leg measures and lead ones. So I want my YouTube channel monetized, but the thing I can control, the lead measure, is to post a video weekly. Now, this is something that I'm actually taking from a writing book that I recommend to my clients. And that is to look at your premise, to look at your goals in this case, and figure out the inherent problems with them. In storytelling, what it is like he talks about how in the first Star Wars movie, when it first came out, before it was this huge phenomenon, the goal was to tell this global, like multi-global story, but have it matter with certain characters while still feeling like it was a rich world. Like, that's hard. It's an inherent problem with the premise of Star Wars. What are the inherent problems with your goals? Like, for me, if my goal is to monetize my YouTube channel, one of the inherent problems with that is if I spend all my time doing this, I won't make any money now. That's a problem. With my songwriting, I'm not a fast chord writer. I'm not fast at coming up with melodies the way that I am lyrics. It's going to take time. And one of the other problems with creative work that I think it's important to acknowledge when you're starting this is that a lot of creative goals are unknowable in terms of the scope. I have songs on my list that I finished in September, got to my read through of the whole script in late October, and realized those songs needed changed. I was updating lyrics last night for a song that had been done for a year. You don't know what's going to come up. Accepting that in advance can give you the chance to come up with strategies to overcome them, or even just to accept that you can't control everything, that things are going to change, and that there are inherent problems in everything. It's always a matter of trade-offs. From there, we need to determine how we're going to measure things. The 12-week year book recommends listing out all of the tactics, 2 or 3 for each goal, writing down how often you want to do them, weekly, daily, 3 times a week, whatever, once a month, once. Do this all in advance and then just check in weekly. I found for me this didn't work, partially because, like I said, some of my goals were unknowable in scope, but also I tend to work best when I follow my motivation to at least some extent while like nudging it in the right direction. So what worked for me was weekly-ish journaling about where I was at, where I was stuck, and I made a table of progress on my songwriting by just listing all the songs, listing down the things that I needed to do for them, the lyrics, melody, chord progression, and recording a demo, and then just checking them off, but rewriting this list every single time that I did it because new songs would get added, songs would get taken away. I would finish the lyrics and then realize I need revised and so on. So for me, even though I love Notion templates, I haven't yet figured out a way to do a 12-week year in Notion that works for my brain. I am working on it. I have ideas. They haven't helped yet. Right now, good old-fashioned pen and paper is my plan. And then commit to adaptation. 3 months is not a lot of time, but it is a lot of time to plan in advance, at least for me. So one of the things that I do when I'm starting a 12-week year is I decide that it's okay if my plans change. I pivot as necessary to keep working toward what matters. That was how YouTube ended up getting thrown in with my Notion goal, because I ended up making some progress on my YouTube channel that I wasn't expecting to. I mean, thanks to only one video, really, but it was pushing me in the right direction, and I decided to try to capitalize on that momentum. Who knows whether or not it was successful, but I let myself do that because it still fit in with my overall long-term goal. So that is what I have for you today. I hope that you can make 2025 your year by implementing the strategies of a 12-week year, but tailoring them to how your brain works. Go ahead and click subscribe and stay tuned for more videos about productivity, writing, and hopefully songwriting soon.